spring flowers continued. Okay, so I have just a couple of flower petals left. If you need more time, just go ahead and pause it. Can you feel your cutting muscles growing? Good. You'll do lots of cutting when you go to kindergarten. Okay, there we go. So I have all of my cutting done. We are going to build a flower in just a minute. But first, we are going to take our light green tissue paper, and we're going to glue it onto the bottom of our paper. This is going to be your layer of grass. I'm going to take my glue stick. And I'm going to get glue everywhere that I want to put grass. I'm also going to go over it a little bit with the green paint. Once my glue is applied, I'm going to use pinch your fingers. How many pieces of green tissue paper do you think you want to put on your paper? Okay. I would like to put 20 pieces on my paper. So will you count with me? 1, 2, and you can put them any way. You can glue them on any way you want to. 3, 4. Hold on, pause. I need a little more glue. We're at 4. Okay, what comes after 4? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. Good counting. Give yourself a pat on the back. I'm going to take a little bit of green, paint, and I'm going to mix it with a little bit of white, because I like the light green of the tissue paper. I think it looks really pretty. Yeah, mix it a little bit. And then I'm just going to go over my grass like this motion. Do you guys remember when we painted the flowers and the vases? Remember? Yeah. So I'm just kind of going to go over. And if you would like, if you're not using paint, you can continue to put the green tissue paper on, or if you wanted to pause the video and grab a crayon or a marker, you could do that. And then you could just color over your tissue paper, or above it if you can't color over it, because that seems like it might be a little bit tough. Now I'm going to do a different technique. Are you ready? You're just going to go like this. Up, 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 and when you do that up motion, feel free to go over the tissue paper. I'll show you mine in just a second. Also, if you're not using paint, the way that the tissue paper looks when you put it together and you line the bottom is so pretty. I love the way that looks. So this is the way mine looks. That's my green grass. Can you see it? Oh, there you go. And because I used paint, I also brought a glass with some water in it so that I could rinse my paintbrush out. So the next thing that we'll do is we will paint the sky. Well, we're gonna create the sky. So if you want to use a marker or crayon or paint, if you want to leave the sky white, that will be absolutely beautiful too, okay? So I'm gonna mix my blue in with the white. Okay, and I'm gonna do the same up and down motion that I was just doing, but I'm gonna do it over this part of the paper. And if you want to, you can make individual clouds by just doing a few of those together. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a lot of blue up here. If you wanted to, you could always take the blue all the way down to here. You could do that as well, however you want to do it. And then once we start putting our flowers together, we'll start counting again. Do you like the color blue? Yeah. Me too. And this is something we're going to be talking about when we do our next learning unit. And we have an art project that we're going to do surrounding this. But blue is one of those colors that when I look at it, I kind of feel calm. Like it's just... Do you feel that about blue? Okay. Different colors can actually cause us to feel different emotions. Isn't that crazy? I know. And it doesn't have to be the same emotion. Blue, maybe blue makes you feel angry when you look at it. Maybe it makes you feel happy. Maybe it makes you feel scared. Okay. My sky is everywhere. I decided to put it everywhere. And you see that up and down, up and down. This motion can make things in nature look a little bit more realistic, and that's why I do that. Here is my sky. I brought it all the way down to the grass. And I did not give myself something to wipe my hands with, so I'm going to do what I normally do at school, which is wipe it on my pants. we're gonna take our flower centers now, and we're gonna put them about here, about this height. You can put it whatever height you want to. If you want to put them high, you can put them high. If you want to put them low, you can put them low. I just want to make sure that we have enough room to get all of our petals on, okay? So I'm going to take my glue. I'm going to stick each one of them on. And because I have paint all over my hands, my flower centers are not going to be just yellow. And you can put them different heights too. So one middle of your flower could be higher, the other one could be lower. And that's how it looks in nature when you look outside, right? Unless you're at Disneyland. And then Disneyland has every single flower what seems like the same exact height. So what I did with this one is I did one low, one higher, one lower, one higher, and that is a pattern. Okay, so you can make a pattern with colors. You can make a pattern when you make a bracelet. So if you wanted to make an AB, it's called an AB pattern, you would put 2 colors on your bracelet, and then it would be every other color. So for example, if your colors that you were going to make your bracelet with were blue and purple, you would put a blue bead, purple bead, blue bead, purple bead, blue bead, purple bead, until you're completely done. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's sort of what we have here. I did low, high, low, high. Now I'm going to take our petals, my petals. Can we count how many petals we have in all? If we don't have the same amount, that's okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I have 12 petals. How many do you have? Can you count? Good counting. So I'm going to start making my flowers, and really the only thing that you want to make sure you're doing, and you don't have to do it that way if you don't want your flower to look that way, is to put your petal near or under your flower center, okay? So see how I put my petal just right underneath it. So if you can lift up that edge right there, you can put it underneath it. You can also put it on top. You can put it like this if you wanted to. If you want your flower to be all the same color, you could use all the same paper. If you want it to be different, then you can mix it up. If you want to do another AB pattern where you take 2 different kinds of paper, 2 different patterns, and then do 1 of each, you can do that too. So go ahead and put your flowers on however you want to. If you have some big flower petals and some smaller flower petals, you're going to want to put the bigger flower petals on first. Okay, and I'll show you why. I'm actually going to remove one of my flower centers. I'm starting to see that I have enough petals, not for 4 flowers, but for 2, because I want them to be full. So I'm just going to take off 2 of my centers. If you start to see that, then you can do that too. Or you can cut more construction paper if you want to. You can just pause the video. Okay. Okay, so I just finished 2 flowers. I'm going to grab a little bit of paper really quick. So go ahead and finish your flowers and I'll be back. I grabbed a little bit more paper because I want to be able to show those of you that have, and I'm pretty sure I did everybody's the same, where you have small petals and bigger petals. If you don't, if you have all the same, you can ask one of your parents or your grandparents, a family member, to help you draw smaller petals and then cut them out that way, okay? So I want to show you what it looks like to add the smaller petals on top of the bigger ones. And then we're going to start counting again. So I'm just going to cut these really quick. I remember how big, or little I should say, some of those flower petals were. How are you liking how your flower's coming out? Yeah, it's pretty, huh? I got excited when I thought of the idea to do the flower petals out of the different patterns of paper, because I just thought, especially with the colors that they are, it would just make it look so much more like spring. What is your favorite season? So there's fall. Fall's cooling down. It's not as warm as summer, but it's not cold. And that's when the leaves fall off the trees and it gets windier. There's fall, and then it turns into winter, and winter's when it gets colder and the days get shorter, meaning that nighttime comes sooner. And then spring, that's exactly where we are now. And then after spring is summer, and that's when it gets hot, and we all try to find some sort of body of water, whether it's a pool or a lake or something to swim in. I have a community pool in my neighborhood, so that means a pool that everybody that lives in this neighborhood can use it. And when it's summertime, I live there. Not really, but I spend a lot of time there. Okay. Now I'm going to add my small petals so that I can show you. And what you're going to do, if you have small petals, just lay them right on top of the larger petals. And it doesn't matter if the patterns don't match. It doesn't matter if it's different colors. It actually looks really, really pretty and really artistic if it's not matching. then after this, we'll have one more thing to glue on. But before we do that, we are going to start counting. We've been counting a lot, huh? I know, every day during circle time. You guys are doing amazing. Okay, last one. This one right there. Okay. So I'll show you my flowers. This is what they look like. So you can see with some of the small petals, I put them right on top of a bigger flower petal. Do you see that? And then some of them I put in between two flower petals. And that's really what some flowers look like when you see them outside. Are you ready to count? So first, we're going to, well, actually no, we'll count it all in order so that we don't get confused. Okay, so you can count with me first, and then you can count your flower petals, and I'll ask you how many you have in all, okay? So let's count this flower first. So your very first flower. 1, and I don't know if you can see it, but I have 2, so we're gonna just count 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So we've got 11 flower petals on this flower. Let's count. First of all, sorry, before we move on, can you count how many petals you have on your first flower? Okay. Awesome. Now I'm going to count my second flower. And if you have more than 2 flowers, you can count the petals on each one of your flower. But just for the video, I'm going to count 2 because we're going to do math and it's called addition. We're working on that, okay? Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. My second flower has 8 flower petals on it. So the next thing we're going to do, it might be a little bit challenging, but just follow along. We're going to do, it's called addition, and it's when you add different numbers together. So in this case, we're going to be adding the petals on this flower to the number of petals on this flower so that we can see how many petals we have in all on our entire page. Okay, you ready? Okay, let's count again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Now we're not going to start all over. We're going to start what comes after 11. 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. We have 19 petals in all. This one has 11, and this flower has 8. So 11 petals plus 8 petals equals 19 petals. that make sense? Awesome. You're going to do a lot of that in kindergarten. The very last thing that we're going to do before we say goodbye is we're going to put our sun on. If you want to, you could make stems on your flowers. You could do that with a green marker or crayon if you wanted to. You could color leaves if you wanted to. If you didn't paint, because if you painted, oops, I did the wrong side. If you painted, you won't be able to draw over the paint. But if you have parts on your paper that aren't painted, you can even draw birds, and I'll show you in just a second how to do that. So that's where I put my sun. You can put your sun wherever you want to. And that is our spring flower art project. So before I go, I want to show you guys how to draw, oh, sorry about that, a bird. So this isn't gonna look like a bird's head, a bird's body. It's going to resemble what you see when you look in the sky and you see birds flying by, okay? So you're just gonna take a marker and you're gonna go, zoop, zoop. It's just 2 lines, that's it. Look. See that? Can you see, when you imagine looking up at the sky and seeing a bird flying by? Yeah? It almost looks like half of an M, Missy Mouse. That's what it almost looks like. Okay. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm so glad that we got to do art together. I hope you had fun and learned about counting and math and spring. And we'll see you guys soon. Bye.